Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second half of the semester in managerial epidemiology. I know a number of you are anxiously awaiting and have started looking at the data for your project. Others of you don't know where to begin. So hopefully this short video will help get you started. When we meet one-on-one, we can cover the basics. I will meet you wherever you're at. If you have already done a bunch of the analysis in the project template, we can walk through that and look for accuracy. If not, we can take the time setting up the pivot table and talking about how to do some of this data analysis. But hopefully this little tutorial will help get you started anyways. So for today, I'm going to be using the Monroe County data set from 2016. Again, it's a bit of a bummer that we're not going to be using 2017 or 2018, but when we were looking through the updated data sets, it was just they didn't have service category, and without that, it's going to be a major overhaul. We could figure out some other alternative paths to get that information, but it would require quite a bit of work in transforming those DRG codes into service categories. So for now, we're just going to use 2016 because, again, this is really just practice, and it's also great for us to look at 2016 to say if we were back in 2016, let's say, or Q1 of 2017, doing this analysis and projecting out 5 years, that's where we are right now, right? So do our projections hold true? Again, a lot has changed in that time, but we can kind of look at this as a retrospective analysis. So I am going to be, bear with me as I share my screens. I am going to start here with the raw data set. There is one thing that I would like for you to do to modify in the data set before you get started, but I will talk through that here briefly. So when we're looking at this data set, again, this has every single admission from 2016. So each one of these rows indicates a new patient admission or discharge. So the variables that we have here are sex, ethnicity, and for those that aren't obvious, like male and female, these ethnicity codes, all of this information is available on the Sparks website. In the Certificate of Need folder, I've got links out to a few different websites. The Sparks appendices is where you're going to want to go for any of those questions regarding county codes or any of these other variables like ethnicity or health service category. So we've got a newborn flag. This is not super important for analysis, but it's in here. We have something called HSA, which is the health service area, or how New York State designates it. This isn't, again, very relevant for what we're doing, but it's in here. We have service category. This is super relevant. This is basically how we're going to be categorizing our analysis. And it's so important that I've included the key for these codes on the worksheet in the project template on county utilization. We've got race. We've got the patient state. We're going to see that some patients, especially for those that live along the PA border, we're going to see a larger proportion of individuals coming in from Pennsylvania. But we'll, even in any of our other counties, we're probably going to see a few here or there from other states as well. What's important to note about this data set is, again, if I'm looking at Monroe County, I'm going to be capturing two populations. I'm going to be capturing Monroe County residents, and I'm also going to be capturing anybody that's coming in from an outside county or state. So here, patient county, these are all residents of Monroe County. If they received care in Monroe County, when we hop over here to the hospital county, we'd also see 26 because that is the number for Monroe County, but we don't see that. When we hop over to hospital county, we see that we've got a number of patients up front here that reside in Monroe County that went and received care somewhere else. So in this case, let's see, this looks like it's Memorial Hospital. Not familiar with that. We've got Olean General. So this is going to be Olean's county code. Down here, we've got a number of patients that went to Buffalo General. So this is going to be Erie County. So we're capturing both of those. And that's important to us as we look at this week and next in our strategic planning. Understanding and looking at migration is key as we're looking at whether or not we should be adding resources or particular service lines. And if we're seeing that patients are leaving and going elsewhere, that is a flag to us to also say, hey, how can we keep those patients here within the county and ideally within our health system? So aside from patient county and hospital county, we've got admission hour, discharge hour, disposition, where were the patients discharged to, reimbursement, so who is the insurance provider, age, admission day of the week, discharge day of the week. This is a length of stay. We've got patient zip code. PFI is the permanent facility indicator, and this corresponds to the facility name. So you're going to see, whatever your health system is that you're doing analysis for, you're going to want to find that PFI. We'll get to that in some of our analysis in a bit. We've got the total charge for the admission, and I always think this is really interesting to kind of comb through these and see what these prices shake out to be. What's important to note is that the last two, there should be a decimal in here. The last two digits are cents. So in this case, the patient stay was billed at just over $14,000. And again, patient city and facility name. So one of the things that we need to do up front is we need to modify length of stay. So we need to just change this column. We're going to add a new column because the way length of stay was incorporated into this file is that it's not actually showing as a number. There are lots of different ways you can skin this cat, but what I do is I'm just going to add, whoops, no, I'm not going to cut. I am going to add a new column here. So we're going to insert, and I'm going to just title this LOS for length of stay. And I'm going to do equals this, and I'm going to do +0, enter. That's going to give me this data point as an actual number. If we go down here and hover our cursor over the bottom right-hand corner of the cell, it's going to show a plus sign. If we double click on that, it is going to process and it's going to expand that formula all the way down to the bottom of our spreadsheet. It's really important in this case because if we were to even scroll our cursor, that's going to take us a little while just because of the size of this data set. So if we can see when we scroll down, that's going to go down to all 111,000 admissions. No, I'm sorry, that's one. Is that 11,000? 111,000? Yes, it's 111,000. So we are covered now. We've got length of stay in here as a numeric value. So now we can go ahead and we can set up our pivot table. So if we go to insert pivot table, it's already got the range selected for all of our columns. And we're going to put this in a new worksheet so we can just say, okay. Here we go. This is our pivot table. And for those of you that are new to this is life-changing. So I'm going to go ahead and start by putting a filter on here. And I'm going to do this because the first worksheet in our project template that I'm going to be focusing on is county utilization. And to do that, we only want to look at our county residents and how they're utilizing care. So I'm going to say patient county, and it automatically, when I click that, it pulls it over here. We can just drag that right over to our filter. So I'm going to put a patient county filter on here. And when I go up here to the drop down, I'm going to select all. And I know that my county code for Monroe County is 26. And so let me show you really quickly where I got that from to make sure that you can do the same. Again, there are links. There are links in Blackboard to help you get to this page. But this is what you're going to be looking for. So this appendices page on the New York State Department of Health, this is in their Sparks data set. And again, we've got a link in Blackboard that goes directly to this. I'm going to go down to Appendix F, which is going to give you the county codes. When we click on that, we can see the list of the county code, and the first three positions in the zip code. But we've got full zip information, which is awesome. In most de-identified data sets, we don't get the full zip code, but we've got it here, which is really cool. So if I go down to Monroe County, I see, whoops, sorry about that. I see that Monroe County is county code number is 26. So you can do the same for your county. 1 second. Let me hop back to our template. Okay. So actually, let me pull up the project template really quickly, because the first thing I want to make sure that you're following along with the project template. Okay. So when I go over to our project template, this is the basic information. I've had a couple of questions on this. I'm going to advise that you wait a few weeks to come back to the primary service area. This is going to be our focus for this week and next, where we talk about market share and actually doing this analysis. And this is where we use these 3 different methodologies, which again, we'll talk through over the next couple of weeks to identify basically what do we consider our primary service area to be. The population tab, all of this information you can and should be getting directly from the Cornell PAD projections. And we're going to be doing this for 2016 and comparing it to 2021. But we're going to start here on the county utilization tab. So the first thing we want to do is focus here on this first table, calculation 3.1, which is our county resident discharges. And we're going to look at these by age, sex, and service category. So again, I include the codes and the definitions here for the different service categories. But the first thing we want to know is, again, this is just county residents, which is why when I created that pivot table, that first time around, I put that patient county filter on it because we only want to look at Monroe County residents here in this case. We're going to get rid of that filter moving forward, especially when we get to facility utilization down here. But for now, we need it because we are focusing on just county residents. So if we look at this, we want to understand the data we want to break it down again by service category, by age, and by gender. So let's go back to our pivot table. So to do that, I am going to, let's see, we can start with, let's make it look somewhat similar to what we see in the template. So we're going to let's put sex as a column. And we also want service category in there. Let's do our rows by service category. So again, you can kind of start to see that this is going to look a little bit like what we see in the project template. And then we want to know what these values are though. What is going to be going in, what data is going to be going in here. So this is where we want to come back and use length of stay. So length of stay is important. We've got this 2 different ways. That first table in the project template is asking us for discharges. So instead of summing the length of stay, we actually just want to count it. We want to count each one of those admissions. And more specifically, when I'm looking at the project template, I only want to focus on med surge to begin with, which are 1 and 2 service categories, 1 and 2 here. So I'm going to select those. And then, oh, you know what I forgot? And so this is one of the things when you're working with pivot tables. You can do this probably 25 different ways. It's going to get you the same thing, but sometimes you just have to move stuff around to get to where you want to be. I'm actually going to move this service category up as a filter, and I forgot my age, so I'm going to bring age down. I'm going to scooch age over to row. So here we've got all of the ages. So again, corresponding to that table 3.1, one of the first things that we want to look at is we want to look at, here again, I've got our filter selected where I'm looking at medical surgical discharges only. And we want to know what those discharges look like for ages 15 through 19. So I'm just going to go here to the filter associated with age and click 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And that is going to give us the following information. So when we're looking at just medical and surgical discharges, I would go back and say, okay, we had, for this age cohort, we had 426 female discharges. We had 467 male discharges, 426 and 427. So when I go back, I'm going to go, this was 426. And then males were 467. So we already are starting to populate this information, and we're going to see that it starts to pull across here. But we need, in order for this table to start populating, it's actually going to calculate those rates, it's going to use that population information from this population tab. So if you've got that, if you want to go in and do those population projections, you'll see that this table 3.1b will automatically start to populate as you put this information in. Now, instead of doing this entire table and then coming back and doing this one, this table is looking at county resident patient days. So that's how many days did they actually spend. So that's where we're going to need to actually sum that length of stay information. So I'm going to keep the pivot table just as I have it and just change how we're looking at the values. So I am going to go back and show you my pivot table. So again, when we're here, when we look down at this values area down here, again, we are choosing count, and that's going to tell us basically how many rows did we see, which correspond to how many admissions there were. But we really want to understand not only how many admissions there were, but how long they stayed. So we're going to change this from count, this length of stay variable, to sum. So it's basically going to add up all of the data in that field. And when we do that, it's going to tell us that females had a total in this age range in 2016, there were a total of 1,495 days spent in an inpatient facility, and males had 2,281. So again, I'm going to hop back over into my template. And I'm going to jump down to that second table here. And now said females was 1,495 and males came out to be a total of 2,281 days. So that is all I'm going to share for right now. That's more than enough to get you through the next week. And then we can keep doing some updates. I'll give you a little bit at a time. We can talk more about moving forward in the project template. But again, just to get started, focus on that population tab and pulling in those numbers from the Cornell PAD projections, getting your pivot table set up, making sure that you create that extra column for length of stay to make sure it's a numeric value. And then once you do that, getting started with those first two tables, looking at county resident, total number of admissions, and total patient days. As always, if you have questions in the meantime, please let me know. Talk to you soon.